On the ACT test, you'll have several questions that'll test your logical use of transitions. You'll be given an underlined transition or transitional phrase and be asked to determine if it should be replaced, omitted, or left alone. The key to figuring out the appropriateness of the transition is to determine its purpose. What's the relationship of the transition to the previous paragraph or phrase? Is it restating an argument? Is it showing a relationship of time? What happened first? In the classroom, I'll show you a list of common transitions and their uses. So, openings, closings, and transitions. Depending on the phrase or the opening and closing, depends on what words you should typically choose. So what we have to take a look at here is a list of common openings, closings, and transitional statements. Know what their purpose is. A lot of this will be simple for you. It can be downloaded off of the website. Just review it before you take the English portion of the ACT, and that should be enough to just keep things in your mind so you're choosing the right words. So what we have here is a list of words that are typically used for opening a paragraph. Words like admittedly, assuredly, certainly, granted, no doubt, nobody denies, obviously, of course, and to be sure. When these phrases are used, they're typically followed also by a comma. So, given choices, if it's an opening of a paragraph, these are good words to choose. Okay. In paragraphs that are meant to restate a point, or even a phrase within a paragraph that's restating a point, there are certain transitional words that make sense to use there. Here's a brief list of them. Again, or as noted, as stated, in brief. In other words, point in fact, or specifically. So if there's an underlined selection and they're asking if you should insert a word and one of these words is the choice, that would be okay as long as that section is restating a point. And then there are certain words that are used to simply signal a conclusion. It's wrapping up the essay or the section. Words like as I have shown, or consequently, finally, hence, in brief, in conclusion, or in final analysis, or in final consideration. The words final certainly put in there. Ones that you know, this is what we would put at the end because we're concluding, summarizing. If the paragraph is summarizing main points, these are good choices to use there. And almost always they're followed by a comma as well. These are transitions that are used for a sequence of time. If the selection that you're reading is in chronological order, meaning they're going from one thing to the next in the order that they would have been happening in time, one of these transitions is probably the appropriate one to use if they give you the choice of additionally or after, or afterwards, as soon as, at first, at last, at this point, before, or before long. Those are words that indicate time. They're used in sections that are chronological. You'll also have certain transitions that make sense when you're changing a line of reasoning. So if the underlined section then is going against what was previously stated, right, in the essay, then you would want to choose one of these transitions that show that you are changing the line of reasoning. So for example, if they're giving two differing points of view, at the beginning of the second point of view, that is differing from the first, if you have a choice to insert one of these transitional phrases, that's probably the correct way to go. Things like at this level or but, generally speaking. However, in general, in spite of, in this situation, and nevertheless. And then there's a more thorough list that you can get online if you're interested in just going ahead and downloading the list. You'll have them there. Most of you will probably find this pretty simple. It's just to keep in mind that certain transitional words work in some sections better than others because you're going to have choices between more than one. In closing, reviewing common transitions and their uses will help in recognizing what transition is the proper choice on exam questions.